Hi everybody. Today we are answering the question how to care for elderly parents when siblings disagree. I talk to a lot of adult children who say, how on earth do we navigate the care of elderly parents when my brother or my sisters or my brothers and my sisters all disagree? Or we can't agree on what's right to do for mom or dad. Or mom or dad is pitting one of us against the other one, and that's causing a lot of family disagreements. Well, I can tell you, based on my 25 years of experience, these can be very complicated situations depending on whether you are at the beginning of a difference or opinion, whether this situation has been going on for some time, whether your sibling has done something questionable, like misused a parent's money, is neglecting their care, maybe isolating them, maybe your sibling has done something to cause emotional trauma with your parent. So many things can happen. For the purposes of this video and to limit the scope and the time, this video will address how to get ahead of early disagreements before they proceed to a point where there is more conflict, before they proceed to a point where bringing your siblings back together and getting along is highly unlikely or impossible. So, stay with me while I share two scenarios to present both sides of a care situation. Because I always feel that it's important to look at your side, but also look at the other side. Look at how other people may be viewing the situation so that you can gain a bigger perspective. I'll also give some early and basic steps that you can take to manage through these early disagreements. Now, if you find yourself in a situation that has gone beyond this video, beyond the two scenarios presented, you can always schedule a one-to-one consultation with me through the link below this video, or go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on the Services tab, and then select Elder Care Consultation, where you can learn more. If this is your first time on my channel, I'm Pamela D Wilson. I'm a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. I help adults and their caregivers work through health, financial, legal aspects of caregiving, including navigating family relationships. I also serve as an expert witness for law firms and clients in matters of guardianship and conservatorship, dementia, Alzheimer's, home care, all of that. You can learn more about me by going below this video. There are plenty of links. Please also do like this video, press the button, follow my channel. There are almost over 900 videos here. Share these videos and comment, even if it's only to say thanks for the video. One little thank you, one little comment goes a long way to help other people find their way here, and I do respond to all of your comments. So let's look at scenario number one. Are you caring for an elderly parent and your siblings aren't really involved, but maybe they're in your face all the time saying, why aren't you doing this? You should be doing that. Or maybe they just think that you aren't doing a good job or you're not doing enough. But they're not helping because they're too busy. They have a job and family and everything. And maybe you are the youngest child or you're single and you don't have a family and they think that you should just do all of this. Scenario number two. Maybe you're not involved in your parents' care. Maybe one of your siblings is that primary caregiver because maybe they live close to where mom and dad lives and you've moved away. Maybe your sibling isn't very communicative. They don't give you information. And it seems like the only time you hear about things is when your mom or dad is in the hospital, or you call and you talk to mom and dad say, oh, this happened. And you're thinking, well, why didn't my sibling tell me? Well, sibling relationships, as we all know, can be challenging. We all don't grow up in perfect families where we all get along. And if you are in a family situation where your parents have remarried and you have step siblings, that is even more difficult because you didn't grow up together. And maybe you spent 5 minutes with your step sibling. You have no relationship at all. So let's say that you grew up in the same family, but you grew up and you grew apart. Maybe you didn't get along when you were younger. Maybe you haven't maintained regular contact over the years. Life gets busy. People get busy. But all of a sudden, mom and dad, they need help. And if you are that caregiver, maybe your parents want you to inform your siblings and keep them updated, but you may be thinking, they don't care. I don't have anything in common with them. Their belief systems are the opposite. I don't even want to talk to them. Well, what do you do? How do you care for elderly parents when you and your siblings don't get along? When you don't see eye to eye? In fact, maybe you really don't even like each other. There could have been so much stuff that happened when you were younger. Maybe you or a sibling got involved with the criminal justice system, maybe drugs and alcohol, but now all of that's kind of worked out. But because of that past history, you don't really trust your brother or your sister. Or maybe you fought all the time. Maybe you felt that your parents favored your brother or your sister and not you. All of that stuff stays with siblings throughout a lifetime if we don't discuss them and work them out. Now, depending on your family or your culture, let's add more complications here. Sibling relationships may be viewed or may not be viewed as important. If you didn't get along with your sibling, you may be thinking, why am I going to put in all this effort to maintain a relationship with somebody that I don't even really care about? And I'm not planning on seeing them, even though they are my family. We don't have to like our family members, right? So here's a thought. The why might be because eventually your parents will need care. Now, when we're young, we have no idea this is going to happen. We have no idea we're going to be a caregiver for our parents unless we're raised in a culture where we see this, where multiple generations of a family live in the same house or in the same neighborhood or next to each other, or we see our parents taking care of our grandparents. If we don't have that experience, we're less likely to see that this is even possible, and that can cause greater distances and differences between siblings. But today your parents need help. So regardless of your age or how much you like or don't like your brother or sister, regardless of your family history and all that emotional baggage, ask yourself if you can or if you are willing to set aside your feelings and focus on the care needs of a parent that you love. And I'll be honest, sometimes it's not even a parent you love. It's a parent who needs help and you feel responsible and obligated. So let's just put that out there because that happens too. If you can set aside your emotions, it can be possible to create what I call a working relationship with one sibling or several siblings that you don't like. All you have to do is define what a working relationship means. You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to call each other every week. You don't even have to like each other. All you have to do is be able to agree to work with each other in a give and take situation for the good of your parent. That is the agreement that you make. Now, the agreement can start with identifying roles, by setting boundaries, by creating and understanding expectations. Because if you're going to work together with somebody, you really have to understand where everyone is coming from. And sometimes that does include talking about a little bit of family history and acknowledging your part in that family history, right? So look at who's currently involved and what are the roles, who's doing what. And then let's look at two situations here. So the first is you're the primary caregiver. That is your role. You've been doing this for, I don't know, a year, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Your siblings show up every now and then, maybe on holidays to see mom or dad. Otherwise, they've never offered to help. If you've asked, they haven't been available, and so you just never asked again. So your siblings are not in a caregiving role. In fact, other than infrequent involvement, they're just not involved at all. Since you are the one helping your parents also aren't asking their other children for help, right? Because they have you. Now, when your brothers and sisters show up, they expect a welcome party, right? They expect that there's going to be food at mom and dad's house, and the house is going to be clean, and if they're staying there, the beds are going to be made, all that kind of stuff. They want to be hosted or treated like a guest. But your parents can't do that anymore, right? Because you're the caregiver. You're the one who's having to do all that work, and you are becoming angry and resentful. How do you change that dynamic in that situation? You simply start by having a conversation, and you say, hey, I heard you're visiting. Mom and dad said you're coming. That's great. But just know that I'm not going to set up the house for you. I'm not going to buy a bunch of groceries. If it's a holiday, I'm not going to arrange the holiday dinner anymore. I've done this in the past because mom and dad asked me to, but you know what? It's getting to be too much. And so now if you're coming, realize that it's up to you to buy groceries. If you expect a holiday dinner, plan it, make it happen, clean up, schedule, a dinner out. I cannot be the caregiver and the host and the welcoming committee anymore. And by the way, I want you to know that I'm working on a plan to find other care options for mom and dad because I've been in this role for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, and I can't continue to do this. Mom and dad know. I've talked to them. Being the only caregiver has affected my job, my health, my life, and my family. I want you to be aware of this so that you're not surprised as more things start to change. You've set your boundary. You've explained your role. You've kind of explained their role, which is not helping. So depending on how your siblings respond, you can offer to set a family meeting to discuss the changes. You can talk about your timeline. You can talk about all the care responsibilities that you've assumed. And if they have an interest, they can step in. The bottom line here is don't feel guilty for realizing that you've come to a stopping point, for setting a boundary. Don't feel guilty for choosing to move on with your life as long as you've talked to your parents about it, you've talked to your siblings about it. There is either a plan of care for your parents or your parents are saying, you know what, we don't need any help, we'll take care of this. That's their choice. Honestly, sometimes parents don't realize everything that a child has done for them until that child ends this care relationship. Then your parents may be like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? We need this help. Then your parents can choose to find outside help, move to a care community, ask your siblings for assistance. You've been the helper all of these years. You deserve to go on with your life. Now let's look at the opposite scenario. You don't get along with your siblings. Your brother or your sister has been helping out with mom or dad for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. In fact, mom and dad appointed this brother and sister as their medical and financial power of attorney. Now, you're on the outside, right? You always stayed in touch with mom or dad. Maybe you show up once a year for a visit. Maybe you don't. All of a sudden, your parents need more help, and you're now, for some reason, getting worried. You're now, for some reason, getting interested. You start calling your brother or sister who you haven't spoken to in years, who you don't like. They don't like you either. They're not exactly welcoming or friendly. In fact, they see you as being nosy, demanding, disruptive, and as that child who never helped, but all of a sudden you want to be involved, all of a sudden you have time to show up when before you were too busy, you refused to help. Maybe today your questions are taking up a lot of their time. And you're upset because you want to help your parents now. Well, should anyone be surprised at the reaction of your siblings? Honestly, Probably not. If you've been living your life and you haven't been involved in caring for your parents, if you haven't offered to help in any way, all of a sudden now stepping in to ask questions and offer suggestions may not be welcomed. Your siblings are probably angry that you've been out of the picture for so long. Put yourself in their shoes. You're that caregiver. You've been doing all the work. Nobody's showing up. Of course, there are mixed feelings. Of course, there may be a little bit of anger and resentment and everything else that goes along with that. So what are the steps you can take to manage through these two scenarios that are in the early stages? Again, they haven't gone beyond the point of no return. They haven't gone to legal battles or litigation or anything like that, right? The important thing, which is hard to do, is to set aside your emotions. Focus, narrow in on those parents that you love, remove expectations. And expectations could be that you're now going to be this person who makes everything okay. You make everything work. You're going to reestablish this loving relationship with your parents and your siblings, and it's going to be one happy family. Well, probably not realistic. You may have expectations about what your siblings should do or should not do, how your parents should respond. Maybe you have expectations that everybody is going to be so appreciative that you now want to step in. Well, I will tell you that may not be the case. Your brothers and sisters who've been doing this work all these years, they may not have received an ounce of appreciation from your parents. Or if you've been doing this all these years and your parents, your children, or your siblings are on the other side and they're trying to step in, you know that you don't feel appreciated, that you haven't felt appreciated. That's just kind of how these caregiving situations go. So regardless of which side you're on, learn about the care of your parents, what they need. Make sure that you are up to getting involved in this. Decide how much you can be involved and for what time period, what you can commit to. I can tell you if your siblings have been doing this for a while, they probably in the beginning had no idea what they were getting into. And at the present time, maybe they're just so overwhelmed, which is why you're judgmental about, you're not doing enough, you're not doing the right things. Well, if you were in their shoes, you probably couldn't think about what's going to happen tomorrow. Give everybody in this situation the benefit of the doubt. Expectations, especially with the care of elderly parents, can be like this little minefield where one step to the right or one step to the left, everything blows up, everything goes wrong. Set aside time to meet with your siblings and your parents. Don't meet one-on-one because that can cause triangulation. It can cause one person to go against the other. You want to bring everybody together and talk about the same thing and be on the same page if you can. Ask questions to understand where everybody's coming from, why they think what they think, why they think differently from you. And don't try to change somebody else's feelings or opinions. Everybody has the right to feel the way they do, and that can be the really hard thing to accept in these situations where there's so much disagreement. Understand how each person sees their role and sets their boundaries. Understand what everybody can contribute and not contribute and for how long. Ask about expectations. Look at this as an opportunity to learn how all of this got off track, how all of it went wrong, and how you, regardless of your role, might have contributed to the situation going off track. Also realize that depending on your relationship, there may be a lack of trust between you and your siblings, between you and your parents. These things happen because of a lack of transparency and communication. Know that if your family has been divided for years, it's unlikely that overnight you're going to be back together and best friends and things are going to be going great. It's possible, but it probably is going to take a little work. Talk about the support your parents need. Talk about what your parents want versus what you as children want. Talk about what's practical, though, because money and other things affect what's possible. And sometimes people don't want to admit that, this is not practical and this is not even possible. So we have to look at reality and the hard facts. look at this being your chance to gain everybody's support and gain everybody's involvement, whether you have been that caregiver or whether your siblings have been the caregiver. If your parents receiving good care and being taken care of is important to you, do whatever it takes to work this out. Set the family drama aside, set the emotions aside, be more fact-based. Realize that mending relationships with your siblings is going to be required. Set aside your ego, your need to be right. Be more empathetic, understanding, patient. Don't assume that you're right or that you're going to be able to sway everybody to your way of thinking. Probably not practical. Make sure that you understand why everybody thinks the way they do. Show respect for your siblings who have different opinions and different lifestyles. Focus on the facts and understand that some of your family members may not be able to focus on the facts because they're so stuck in this emotional whirlwind of drama and trauma and anxiety and worry that it's going to be hard to bring them over to the factual side. So sometimes you're going to have to go a little over to the emotional side and say, hey, I understand what you're feeling, but this is what's happening. We've got to deal with what's happening. If necessary, find somebody else in the family, aunt, uncle, somebody else who can help these discussions, or find a professional like myself who can help with these discussions. Talking about and managing care for elderly parents can take a lot of discussion, a lot of flexibility, a lot of compromise. There is no magic solution or one right way to do things. There are a lot of options, and sometimes it can take trial and error, plan A, plan B, to work through these and figure out what is best. It's also important to look at where are we today, what are some immediate needs, some short-term needs, and some long-term needs. Because I can tell you, if there is no plan or strategy, the family is going to continue to struggle about what do we do next? How do we respond to this emergency and that emergency? And who's going to do this and who's going to do what? You really need a plan and a strategy. So if you can, look at the relationship with your siblings as team members in the workplace. Look at the care of your elderly parents like a work project, where you keep your personal life and your feelings separate from work. You figure out what needs to be done. You create tasks lists, project lists, timelines, all of that. So that during the time you're interacting with your siblings and your parents, you're more focused on what do we need to do, your emotions are set aside, and then express appreciation. You appreciate people in the workplace. Appreciate the work your siblings have done. Thank your parents for cooperating and being willing to have these conversations. And just realize that, this situation probably isn't ideal for anybody. I mean, really, would anybody choose to be in conflict in their family, in significant disagreements, having to deal with problems? Absolutely not. We would prefer to have smooth family relationships, but that may not be where you are. And so you have to deal with what you have at hand. Set boundaries about what you can and you can't do. Let other people do the same. This is the best way to figure out how everybody can work together. Everybody gets to say what they can and what they cannot do. And also know that if you're just starting to manage through all this early disagreements, the discussions may not go as quickly as you like. You may be somebody who's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody else may need a little more time to settle in. But whatever you do, keep your commitment, keep your agreements, communicate with your siblings and your parents. Realize that everybody may need time to adjust to this idea of working together, especially if one person has carried the burden and they've had to do it all. Giving up a little bit of that control, giving up responsibility can take trust, can take honest discussions, it can take transparency, it can take relationship building. Give everybody a little time and space to breathe. You can make some progress and you'll be glad that you did. I thank you all so much for being here. I'm Pamela D Wilson. I'm a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. Again, below this video, many links to my website, my background information, ways to schedule one-on-one consultations with me. And please do right now press the like button for this video, press the follow button for my channel, share this video on others so that other people can find their way here, and comment. Say thanks for the video, share your story. I respond to all comments. One little comment, one little thank you helps other people find their way here. Have a fabulous day today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon in another video.